Sylvester Stallone notices a young mother living under a freeway overpass in Los Angeles with her child wrapped in a torn sleeping bag, trying to stay warm in the unforgiving winter chill. Her exhaustion is written across her face, and the faint cries of her toddler echo into the stillness of the concrete underpass. What Stallone does next will not only change their lives, but will leave you absolutely speechless. It had been a long but fulfilling afternoon for Sylvester Stallone. He had just wrapped up a quiet art exhibition tour at a small gallery in Venice Beach. Nothing flashy, just a low-key afternoon that grounded him the way only creative solitude could. Dressed casually in dark jeans and a black hoodie, Stallone took his time driving back to his Pacific Palisades home. As he neared the intersection of Lincoln Boulevard and the I-10 overpass, the sky had shifted into a gray dusk, and traffic had slowed near an old pedestrian crossing. That's when he saw it. An odd collection of bags, a small body curled under an army surplus blanket, and a figure seated upright, alert yet still, like a watchtower carved from human endurance. Something in the stillness of that image gripped him. He eased the truck off to the side, parked near an abandoned food mart, and stepped out. His instincts, sharpened from a life spent observing people on screen and off, told him this wasn't someone seeking handouts. This was someone barely holding it together. As he approached the underpass on foot, the woman's posture shifted. She didn't reach out, didn't plead. She pulled her child closer and kept her eyes locked on the ground. Stallone stopped a respectful distance away. "Evening," he said, his gravelly voice soft with concern. "I don't want to bother you. I was just driving by and, well, it looked like you might need something." The woman turned slightly, her eyes cautious but not hostile. "We're fine," she said quickly, her voice hoarse from the cold and from speaking too little. Stallone nodded, his hands in his coat pockets. "Okay, just figured I'd ask. You and your little guy?" He motioned toward the boy, who was maybe 3 or 4. "You've been out here long?" She said nothing, but the way her shoulders slumped told him enough. He glanced down, then gently set a folded $100 bill on a nearby crate, backing away. "Just in case you need something hot to eat." He left without pressing further. That night, back at his sprawling Spanish-style home, nestled in the Palisades Hills, Stallone couldn't shake the image. The woman's tired hands wrapped around her son, the way she kept scanning for danger, never for hope. It gnawed at him. He'd known struggle too. Long before Rocky and Rambo, there had been nights in New York where hunger was a close companion and rent was a fantasy. The next morning, he packed a care bag, bottled water, energy bars, a thick hoodie that had once belonged to one of his nephews, a blanket still wrapped in plastic, and a pair of wool socks. He added a stuffed rabbit toy from a box of keepsakes his daughters had left in storage. He didn't know if they'd be there again, but he had to check. They were. The woman sat exactly where she had been, but this time she wasn't curled up. She was organizing her bags, stuffing trash into a plastic sack, trying to maintain some sense of order. Her son sat beside her, playing silently with a cracked plastic spoon. Stallone approached with slow steps. "Brought a few things. Didn't want to scare you yesterday." She looked up, eyes blinking in confusion. Then, without speaking, she nodded. He set the bag down near her but didn't intrude further. "It's cold. That's a good blanket. I hope it helps." She finally spoke. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I can," he said without hesitation. and because I know what it's like to feel invisible." She looked at the bag, her son now reaching inside to touch the stuffed rabbit. Her voice was low. "I'm Sarah. This is Eli." "Sly," he replied. "It's good to meet you both." He crouched down slightly, knees cracking with age. "Sarah, if I asked what happened, would you tell me?" She hesitated. Then, with a resigned sigh, she spoke. "My fiancé died last year. Car accident. No insurance. No help. I lost my job at the cafe a few weeks later when I couldn't show up. Eli got sick, and I didn't have anyone to watch him. One thing led to another. Rent piled up. We ran out of couches to crash on. It's been 2 months since we had a roof." Stallone exhaled slowly. "You don't belong here." Her eyes flashed. "I'm not on drugs. I'm not running from anything. I just ran out of road." "I know," he said softly, "and I want to help you find a new one." Before she could protest, he added, "Not charity. An opportunity. I have a guest house behind my place. It's warm, private, and I've been looking for someone to help with light housekeeping. Nothing heavy, just laundry, light cleaning, maybe some errands. You'd have a key, a place for Eli to play, food on the table. I'm not offering forever, just a reset." Sarah stared at him. "Why me?" "Because you didn't ask for anything, and because you remind me of someone I knew a long time ago." She was strong, too. She looked down at Eli, who now held the stuffed rabbit close. "I don't want to owe anyone." "You won't," he said. "Just say yes. We'll figure the rest out together." That night, as the sky darkened over the Pacific, Stallone helped Sarah and Eli into his truck. They said goodbye to the underpass without fanfare, but the moment carried the weight of a lifetime. At the Palisades property, the guest house lights glowed softly. Sarah walked inside with tentative steps, clutching Eli close. There was a small kitchen, a full bed, a little cot with new linens, and a welcome note on the counter. She turned to Stallone. "Is this real?" He nodded. "It is, and it's yours, for as long as you need it." Eli wandered to the cot and lay down without a word, Rabbit still clutched in his arms. Sarah sat at the edge of the bed, tears brimming in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Stallone smiled and turned to leave. "You start Monday. We'll take it one step at a time." She nodded, her hands trembling. For the first time in months, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Sarah's first morning in the guest house began before sunrise. She hadn't slept deeply, her body still tense from months of uncertainty. But there was something different about waking up in a room with real walls, with heat, with silence that wasn't haunted by the thrum of traffic or the cold moan of wind under a bridge. Eli stirred next to her, curled in his blanket, his cheeks a healthy pink for the first time in weeks. She moved carefully, stepping into the small kitchen where a modest basket sat on the counter. Cereal, fruit, bread. A note in Stallone's unmistakable scrawl that simply read, "You've got what you need. Let me know what you don't." She read the words twice. No flourish, no pity, just presence. She made a small breakfast, fed Eli, and as the boy played with his rabbit on the rug, Sarah took in the space again. The soft amber of the table lamp, the clean tile floor, the quiet hum of a nearby heater. She didn't cry, not yet, but she stood for a long while with one hand over her mouth, breathing through the sensation of something lifting slowly off her chest. When Stallone appeared later that morning, he was wearing a faded navy sweater and jeans, his hair still damp from a shower, holding 2 mugs of coffee. He handed one to her without a word and gestured for her to walk with him across the garden that separated the guest house from the main home. It was simple, but beautifully kept. Stone pavers, neat hedges, a few lemon trees. "Let me show you around," he said. His voice was low, steady, offering familiarity rather than command. The main house, though elegant, had the charm of a home built over decades rather than designed overnight. He showed her the laundry room, the pantry, the cleaning supplies, made no speeches, issued no orders. "Whatever you can help with, you help," he said. "If Eli needs you, then that's where you are. Understand?" She nodded, still absorbing the rhythm of his generosity. That afternoon, while Eli napped, she started with the guest house linens, folding them carefully, then moved to sweeping the hallway between buildings. Her movements were methodical, precise, and she worked with a quiet dignity that Stallone noticed when he stepped out onto the porch and caught her wiping down the handrails in the sun. "You don't have to do everything in one day," he said, smiling slightly. She shrugged. "It feels good to work again." Over the following days, the routine took shape. Mornings spent doing small tasks, tidying, laundry, occasional errands when Stallone needed something picked up, and afternoons with Eli, walking with him to a nearby park or sitting under the lemon tree with picture books borrowed from the neighborhood library. Stallone kept his distance enough to give her space, but close enough that she never felt abandoned. He never pried, but listened when she spoke. Slowly, her story unfolded in pieces. Her fiancé, Marcus, had been a truck driver with long hours and a warm heart. He'd died suddenly, an accident on a rainy highway near Bakersfield. And in the days that followed, Sarah had learned just how precarious their life had always been. No savings, no will, just debt and silence. Her job at the cafe hadn't lasted. No family close enough or willing enough to take them in. She'd done what she thought was best, pack what she could, keep Eli close, and never stop moving. Stallone listened without judgment, only nodding, sometimes offering a name of someone who might be able to help, sometimes just sitting in the quiet after her words ran dry. One Thursday morning, while she was folding laundry on the back patio, he appeared beside her with a pair of old work gloves. "I've got some stuff in the garage that needs sorting. Old movie props, storage boxes. Thought maybe you'd want to help." She agreed, eager for a task that didn't involve cleaning. The garage was cavernous, half-organized chaos, and over the next few hours, they sorted through decades of Stallone's life. Boxing gloves from Rocky III, old scripts with margin notes, photos from film sets with castmates, long gone or long changed. He told her stories, not to impress but to share. He spoke of early rejections, of writing Rocky in 3 days, of selling his dog to buy food and then buying him back with his first check. Sarah listened, eyes wide, not just with interest, but with the quiet astonishment of someone realizing that even legends carry wounds. "The thing people don't get," he said once, as he wiped dust off a framed poster, "is that you never really stop being that guy who almost didn't make it. You just learn how to carry it better." She remembered those words days later, when she got her first paycheck. Stallone had insisted on formalizing her role: direct deposit, proper records, dignity. She stared at the pay stub longer than she'd meant to. It wasn't much, but it was real, tangible, proof that she was no longer just surviving. That night, after Eli had gone to sleep, Sarah stood outside the guest house with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, looking up at the stars. The city buzzed faintly below, distant sirens weaving through the breeze. Stallone joined her with a mug of tea. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. "I keep thinking this will disappear," she finally whispered, "that I'll wake up back under the bridge." Stallone looked at her, his face calm. "It won't. You've earned this, Sarah." She turned to him, her voice shaky. "You could have just driven past. You didn't have to stop." "Maybe," he said quietly, "but I believe in interruptions. Sometimes life puts you in the right place at the right moment, and the only wrong thing to do is nothing." She smiled, a small, fragile thing. "I want to give back, someday. Help someone else the way you helped me." He nodded. "Then you will. And that's how this thing works." Weeks passed. Sarah grew more confident, more present. Her posture changed, her voice steadied. Eli laughed more. He started calling Stallone Mr. Sly and followed him around the garden, asking endless questions about the dogs, the garage, and one day, very seriously, about whether he could be a boxer like Rocky. Stallone chuckled. "Only if your mom says it's okay." Sarah rolled her eyes playfully. "Let's start with preschool first." On a crisp morning in late March, Stallone handed her a flyer he'd picked up from the community center. "They're looking for part-time help in the office. Scheduling, filing. You'd be good at it." She stared at it, surprised. "But I have this job. And you'll still have it. But this is yours. Something that isn't tied to me. Just you, doing your thing, if you want it." She did. And that day, for the first time in over a year, Sarah sat in a waiting room, not looking for shelter, but for opportunity. Sarah got the job at the community center. It wasn't glamorous, just part-time work at the front desk, answering phones, organizing paper files, updating the staff calendar. But to her, it felt monumental. She bought a second-hand blazer for the interview, brushed her hair carefully, and practiced her responses the night before with Stallone over coffee. "You don't have to over-explain," he reminded her gently. "Just be you. Show up honest. That's all anyone can ask for." When she walked into the small office and saw the smiling face of the director, a warm, middle-aged woman named Gloria, she didn't feel like a charity case. She felt ready. The hours were light, which allowed her to continue helping around Stallone's property while still having afternoons free for Eli. It was a delicate balance, but it worked. Eli had started preschool thanks to a local outreach program Stallone had quietly helped enroll him in, and he came home every day with stories about crayons, snacks, and a best friend named Mateo. Sarah marveled at how quickly children could adapt, how Eli, once shy and clinging, now ran confidently into the little classroom with his backpack nearly bouncing off his shoulders. Life wasn't perfect. There were moments when Sarah's old anxieties clawed back. The sound of sirens late at night, the lingering fear that it could all vanish. But those moments no longer owned her. She was no longer a woman surviving day to day under an overpass. She was a mother rebuilding her life. She began to meet other women at the community center, mothers like her, many balancing work and child rearing alone, some fresh from shelters, others navigating systems that didn't seem built for them. One day, after helping a young woman complete an application for housing assistance, Sarah realized she was now in a position she never thought she'd reach, not just needing help, but able to offer it. That night, she shared the moment with Stallone as they sat on the back patio. Her name was Letitia, she said, smiling softly. She reminded me of me. 2 months ago, I wouldn't have had the nerve to speak up. But today, I showed her where to find the forms, who to talk to. I even offered to help her practice for a job interview. Stallone looked over, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. That's what I call a full circle. Sarah sipped her tea and nodded. I think I'm finally starting to believe I belong here. That this isn't a fluke. You've been earning this every single day, he said simply, and it shows. In April, Gloria at the community center offered Sarah a chance to join a city outreach initiative designed to connect at-risk women with short-term housing and vocational training. You've got a voice they'll listen to, Gloria said. You're not coming in from a podium. You've lived it. That matters. Sarah hesitated at first, unsure if she could balance the extra responsibility. But Stallone encouraged her. Say yes. You're ready. So she did, and within weeks, she was speaking at round tables, sharing her journey with small groups of women who were still in the storm, still wondering if they could trust anyone, even themselves. She told them the truth, not a polished story, not a Hollywood script, but something raw and real. How she'd slept in the car, with one hand on her son's chest to make sure he kept breathing. How she'd been too proud to ask for help until one man decided not to walk past. How accepting kindness didn't mean weakness. She never mentioned Stallone by name, never made the story about him, but those who knew him didn't need the name to understand. Word got out slowly. A few staff members at the center started to whisper about the woman who lived in the guest house of one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Journalists sniffed around, curious if Stallone had taken in some mysterious stranger, but he never entertained the rumors. People can talk, he told Sarah one afternoon as they cleaned out the attic. Truth is between you and me. You don't owe anyone your story unless you want to give it. Sarah appreciated that more than he knew. By summer, she had moved from part-time to full-time at the community center and started renting a small apartment 5 blocks away. It wasn't luxurious, but it was hers. 2 bedrooms, a clean bathroom, a kitchen where she could cook Eli's favorite spaghetti with turkey meatballs. Stallone had offered to help furnish it, but she insisted on doing it herself, piece by piece. You've already done enough, she told him. Let me do this part. He respected that. Still, on move-in day, a delivery arrived, a new rug for Eli's room, with race cars printed across a soft blue background. No note. But Sarah knew. As weeks turned into months, the bond between Stallone and Sarah grew into something deeper than any label. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't paternal. It was something more elemental, a trust forged through crisis, a kinship born not of blood, but of shared purpose. Eli, now thriving in preschool, would sometimes ask, "Are we going to see Mr. Sly today?" As naturally as one might ask about visiting a favorite uncle. Sometimes they did, for dinner, or a walk by the bluff where the ocean spread wide and steady. One afternoon, Sarah stood before a small audience at the community center's annual gala. She wore a navy dress she'd found at a second-hand boutique, her hair pulled back, her hands steady at the podium. Behind her sat local donors, city officials, volunteers, and in the front row, Stallone, quietly clapping. "A year ago," she began, "I lived under a bridge with my son. I had nothing but 2 bags and a belief that I had to keep moving. I was scared, angry, ashamed. But someone stopped, someone saw us, and from that moment, things began to change. Not overnight, not magically, but with small steps and a lot of help. I stand here today not because I got lucky, but because I was given a chance, and because I finally chose to take it." The applause that followed was quiet at first, then grew, not because she was famous, not because the story was glamorous, but because everyone in the room could feel the truth in it. Afterward, as the event wound down, Stallone approached her. "You did good," he said with that slow, knowing smile. She smiled back. "You think Eli would be proud?" "He already is," he replied. In the months that followed, Sarah began mentoring other women full-time. She launched a small program out of the center called First Step Forward, a resource circle for single mothers in transition, focused on stability, parenting support, and emotional recovery. The program grew quickly, bolstered by donations, some of which came quietly through Stallone's network. But he never asked for credit. He never spoke on stage. He showed up to fix the leaky faucet, to haul donated furniture, to pick up pizzas for after-school tutoring nights. One evening, as Sarah and Eli sat in their apartment, reading books before bed, Eli looked up and asked, "Mom, do you think we were meant to meet Mr. Sly?" Sarah smiled, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "I think we were meant to find someone who reminded us that people still care." She paused. "And then I think we're meant to become that person for someone else." Outside the window, the Los Angeles night rolled quietly over the hills, the street lamps casting their warm glow onto sidewalks where other mothers still waited, hoping, holding on. And somewhere not too far away, a man who had once fought in the ring for fictional glory now found purpose in something far quieter, lifting lives with nothing more than compassion, action, and the belief that no one should be left behind.